Hiring. It's supposed to be this, strategic engine of growth. It's the single most important thing a lot of businesses do.
It should be.
And yet, if you ask pretty much anyone, the whole process just feels broken, it's frustrating, it's painfully slow, and it leads to what the research calls, very politely, suboptimal outcomes.
Right.
We've all been there. So today, we're just going to put the anecdotes aside, try to cut through all the noise, and really ask, what does the science say about building a hiring system that actually works?
That's exactly the focus. I mean, this deep dive is built on a really rich stack of sources. We're talking empirical studies, a lot of research, all synthesized by a top HR consultant, someone with like 2 decades in talent acquisition.
So this isn't just theory.
No, not at all. This isn't for an academic journal. It's a set of really pragmatic, evidence-based recommendations. It's all grounded in, the actual science of talent acquisition, and it's designed to be used right away.
And that's our mission here. We want to help you transform recruitment, to move it from that painful chore, that cost center, into something that's a systematic, strategic growth enabler, something that gives you a real competitive edge.
A roadmap built on evidence.
Okay, let's unpack this. So let's start at the very beginning. The source material calls it setting the foundation, infrastructure and investment. When a company fails at hiring, where does that collapse usually start?
It almost always begins because recruiting is just treated like an afterthought. It's some administrative task that gets layered onto someone's already full plate.
Right.
And the research is completely unambiguous here. Having dedicated recruitment resources is a major predictor of success.
Okay, that makes sense in theory, but let's be real for a second. In a fast-paced world, especially in, say, a smaller company or a startup, the CEO is the hiring manager, the team lead is the hiring manager, and they're expected to do this in addition to their main job.
Right.
So what does the science offer for them, for the organizations that can't afford a huge, dedicated HR department?
It's about a mindset shift. It's about viewing the activity as an investment, not a cost center, even if that investment is just, protected time.
An investment of time.
Exactly. The organizations that struggle the most are the ones that treat hiring like a fire drill, something they have to solve as quickly and as cheaply as possible. The ones who succeed, they designate specific time and budget. They ring-fence it.
Because they understand the cost of getting it wrong.
Precisely. The key is understanding that ROI. I mean, if you hire the wrong person, or if it takes you an extra 6 months to fill a key role, the costs from lost productivity and turnover can just dwarf what you would have spent on a recruiter or better system.
So getting leadership buy-in is step one, making them understand the true cost of failure. But okay, beyond just throwing money or time at it, what kind of structural things need to be in place before we even think about posting a job?
Oh, structure is absolutely critical. It's what ensures consistency. And consistency is, well, it's the enemy of bias and the friend of predictability.
Okay, so what does that look like in practice?
Before you even write a single word of a job description, you need to have clear goals, clear roles, and accountability for the entire process.
Yeah.
And crucially, you have to move beyond just listing responsibilities.
Go deeper than the bullet points.
So much deeper. The best practice is to define the core competencies, the actual skills, the behaviors, the motivations that you need for success in that role. And you have to link those directly to your company culture.
And if you don't do that?
That lack of structure is the biggest flaw. It just guarantees random, ineffective results because everyone involved is searching for a different ideal candidate in their head. It's all based on instinct, not a shared evidence-based definition of success.
That foundation feels solid. So now we can shift outward to the market, to the people you're trying to attract. The next phase is all about the candidate experience, which the research links directly to employer brand. In a competitive market, how do we make that experience truly exceptional?
The experience is your competitive edge, period. And when we talk about candidate experience, we're immediately in the realm of behavioral science. You need a process that is seamless, user-friendly. It has to minimize friction and cognitive load. Your applicant tracking system, your ATS, can't just be designed for HR's convenience. It has to be for the candidate.
Yeah. If it's confusing or clunky,
you're basically signaling that your whole organization is probably confusing and clunky. It's their first impression.
I remember trying to apply for a job on a tiny smartphone screen maybe 10 years ago. It was infuriating. I just gave up. Is that what we're trying to avoid, that immediate frustration?
That's exactly it. That feeling of frustration, it instantly creates a negative perception of your company.
Yeah.
So in practice, what does a good behavioral science-based system look like?
Yeah, give us some examples.
Okay, first, mobile-friendly applications aren't optional anymore. They're mandatory. Second, you have to think about ways to really showcase the role. Interactive job previews, for instance. And third, allow for optional ways for people to show their personality, maybe through brief video profiles, something beyond just dry text. It builds excitement right from the start.
Communication, though, that seems to be the universal pain point. I mean, you hear endless stories of candidates being ghosted, left waiting weeks for just a simple update.
Yeah.
What does the research say about the actual concrete cost of that kind of unprofessional communication?
This is where it gets really fascinating. I think we all assume the cost is just reputational, a bad review on Glassdoor or something.
Right.
But the data shows it directly hits your hiring success. Candidates are, get this, 63% less likely to accept offers from companies they feel had unprofessional or non-existent communication.
63%. That's massive. Can we talk about the psychology behind that number? What's going on there?
It all boils down to trust
Mm-hmm.
and their perception of how competent your organization is.
That makes sense.
If a company can't even handle timely, respectful communication when they're actively trying to court you, the candidate rightfully assumes it's going to be even worse once they're an employee. It's a huge red flag. It signals a basic lack of respect.
So how do you get that balance right between tech and the human touch?
Well, the practical application is that while technology, your ATS notifications, automated scheduling, is great for efficiency, it can never, ever replace the human touch. That personalized outreach from a recruiter, that's what builds the essential connection and trust.
So that trust, or lack of it, really sets the stage for the next part, evaluation. So let's say you've nailed the candidate experience and now you have a flood of applications. The source material warns really strongly against resume bias. How do we fight that natural tendency to rely on paper qualifications?
Resume bias is just that. It's a natural human tendency. We tend to over-index on things that are easy to measure, high-prestige factors, like the name of the university, the GPA, the brand name of a past employer.
And we ignore the important stuff.
We discount the actual competencies and potential needed for the job. And the research is so clear on this. The link between going to a top-tier school and actual on-the-job performance is tenuous at best a lot of the time.
So how do we mitigate that? What's the toolkit?
We need holistic evaluation methods. We have to move away from those unstructured gut-feeling interviews and toward more rigorous things, like structured interviews, work simulations, and really thorough reference checks. These are the tools that assess what actually matters.
Okay, let's drill down on structured interviews. If the whole goal is to predict future performance, what's the one technique that science shows works best?
Behavioral interviewing. It's the gold standard.
Yeah.
And it's based on a really simple, powerful premise. Past behavior is the single best predictor of future behavior.
Right, so you don't ask hypothetical questions.
Exactly. You require candidates to provide real stories from their past, using the STAR method or something similar. You ask them to demonstrate how they handled a specific challenge or showed one of those core competencies we defined back in the first segment.
So we're not asking how would you handle conflict. We're asking, tell me about a time you had a conflict with a client and what you actually did.
That's it, precisely. It forces them to give you concrete evidence, and it lets the interviewers compare those answers against a standardized, predefined scoring rubric.
Minimizes bias.
It minimizes confirmation bias and ensures every single candidate is being assessed equally against the same criteria for success. But the evaluation shouldn't just stop there.
What else?
Well, the research points to a need for nuance. The assessment should also include things like critical thinking skills, how do they approach a totally new problem, and even asking about interests and passions outside of work. This can reveal a lot about personality fit with a culture that a work history just won't show you.
I get the value of personalized communication for the people you hire, but what really stands out here is this idea of giving constructive feedback, even to rejected candidates.
Realistically, though, in this era of high-volume hiring, isn't that just impractical for smaller teams?
That's a great question. It's about resource allocation. And it's true, you can't write a novel for every single person you don't hire. But the research is firm on this.
Candidates value transparency so much. And providing specific constructive feedback, even if it's brief, it dramatically improves how they perceive the whole process.
Even if they didn't get the job.
Regardless of the outcome. I mean, think about the long-term calculus here. A template rejection letter, it damages your employer brand. It erodes all that trust you worked so hard to build.
And a personalized response.
A personalized response, even just a standardized but targeted paragraph that notes a strength and an area for growth. that builds loyalty. It fosters referrals. It even encourages them to reapply later. You're turning a rejection into a long-term brand ambassador. That's a small investment with a huge future return.
So we've closed the loop. We hired the right person. The offer is accepted. The final critical stage is onboarding. And this segment seems to imply that the biggest risk to our investment comes right after that initial excitement wears off.
Absolutely. The research paints a very high-stakes picture here. That commitment window is so crucial. And the data is just startling.
Yes.
Nearly one-third of new hires decide whether they're going to stay or leave an organization within the first 6 months.
1/3 in 6 months.
And here's the kicker. Almost half of employees cite poor onboarding as a primary reason they eventually resigned. If the reality of the job doesn't match the promise of the interview, that huge investment you just made walks right out the door.
That is a staggering loss rate. So what defines a strategic onboarding plan versus the standard first day? The office tour, the pile of forms, the forgotten password.
The strategic plan is customized, and it's phased. It avoids that one-size-fits-all approach and recognizes that onboarding is a marathon, not a sprint.
So it's not just a day one thing.
No, phase one is logistical setup, and that has to be seamless. Use tech to streamline the paperwork and get them the resources they need so they feel productive on day one, not bogged down.
Yeah.
But the truly strategic work happens in the cultural integration phase.
Which lasts for how long?
It stretches over those critical first 6 months. This means pairing new hires with dedicated mentors, not just for technical questions, but for navigating the culture. It means integrating social activities, structured networking. It's not just about tasks. Research shows that fostering a real sense of belonging is the single greatest factor in long-term retention.
And that's the key difference, the cultural absorption. How do companies make sure this process actually keeps improving?
Continuous evaluation. It's mandatory. You have to systematically evaluate the onboarding experience with surveys, and you have to integrate that feedback constantly. Are the mentors effective? Is the training relevant? Are people finding their footing? That feedback loop is what protects the huge investment you just made.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, whether you're running a business or leading a talent team? Let's just synthesize this path that the science has laid out.
Right. It means you're moving from reactive gut instinct hiring to a proactive evidence-based strategy. So first, you get the right investment and structure in place.
Then what?
Second, you design a seamless, highly communicative candidate experience. Something built on behavioral science to maximize your offer acceptance rate. Third, you have to move past resume bias with structured, holistic evaluation methods.
And
finally, you secure that investment with a customized, strategic onboarding plan that is completely focused on long-term cultural integration and belonging.
And companies that actually do this, that apply these strategies systematically, they gain a real, quantifiable competitive advantage. The end result isn't just a faster time to hire. It's genuinely higher quality hires and significantly lower turnover costs.
Exactly. You're building a sustainable system, not just patching a broken part.
This transformation of the hiring function, it's about so much more than just filling a seat.
It's about making your entire process, end-to-end, a direct and measurable source of competitive differentiation in the market.
So here's the final thought. Where in your current process could just a single piece of behavioral science like minimizing the friction in your application or insisting on behavioral questions, where could that dramatically shift your outcomes next quarter? Something to think about as you review your own talent strategy.